Have you ever noticed how successful people just seem to see things differently? It's not that they have more hours in the day or more natural talent. They just think in ways that open up possibilities most of us overlook. I've always loved books that make me stop and think. Not about doing more, but about thinking better. And that's exactly what John Maxwell's How Successful People Think does. It's one of those short reads that quietly shifts how you approach everything: your goals, your relationships, your work, even your faith. Now, I should say up front, I'm not sharing this because I've mastered it. Far from it. I'm just a fellow traveler learning as I go, jotting down the little insights that stuck with me. These aren't polished lessons from a sage, just notes from a friend who's trying to grow and hoping they might spark something good in you too. Maxwell outlines 11 ways successful people think differently, and each one feels like a gentle nudge toward becoming a little more intentional, a little more hopeful, a little more grounded. Today, I'll walk you through a few of my favorites, the ones that challenged, inspired, and if I'm honest, convicted me a bit too. So pour yourself a cup of something warm, settle in, and let's talk about what it really means to think like a successful person, from the inside out. Chapter 1, cultivate big picture thinking. Big picture thinkers zoom out before they zoom in. They step back from the chaos of daily life to see how today's decisions fit into the larger story. Most people wake up and think through their daily to-dos. Some of us don't even get that far. Others might plan in weekly chunks, checking boxes and hoping nothing slips through. Maxwell challenges us to think further than that. He recommends taking half a day each month to plan the next 40 days and a few days each year to plan annually, intentionally looking at your calendar like a chessboard in light of your goals. I loved this because honestly, I've always been proud of my ability to maximize the 168 hours in a week. I schedule, stack, and Tetris every minute. And yes, it often works until it doesn't. The missing piece? Margin. Life, relationships, and unexpected opportunities don't always fit neatly into my carefully mapped schedule. Big picture thinking reminded me that planning isn't just about filling every block. It's about connecting what I do today to the bigger story I want to live, while leaving room for grace, rest, and the unforeseen. So, just for a moment, think about your own schedule. Are you planning in a way that really serves your bigger story? Or are you just filling the hours? Chapter 2, engage in focused thinking. It's amazing how much noise can crowd out clarity. For me, it's usually a dinging phone or the doom scroll on YouTube disguised as educational videos or podcasts. You might think you're being productive, but a lot of the time, it's just activity without progress. Maxwell's advice here is really reasoned. He encourages us to carve out intentional thinking time, not just for planning, but for reflecting, prioritizing, and deciding what deserves our attention. And the best part? It doesn't have to be elaborate. Right now, I'm trying something simple. Just driving in silence rather than listening to anything in the car. It's tiny, but it gives my mind a chance to breathe and actually think. I've had to admit, I don't always do this. I am guilty of jumping from one thing to the next, trying to check every box and thinking busyness equals effectiveness. But focused thinking is the difference between just moving and actually moving in the right direction. So here's a little question for you to chew on. Are you giving yourself space to think clearly, or are you letting the noise of daily life decide what matters most? Chapter 3, harness creative thinking. Creativity isn't just about being artsy. It's really about curiosity. It's asking questions, exploring possibilities, and looking at things in ways others might not have considered. One of my favorite points Maxwell makes is that where an idea comes from doesn't matter. Don't discriminate against the source. Now, that doesn't mean ignoring wise counsel, but if an idea itself is good, explore it. Maxwell says some of his best creative thinking was done by other people. And honestly, I feel the same way. My students are incredible sources of fresh ideas. Kids naturally think outside the box because they haven't yet learned to squash themselves inside it. If they think something, it will come out of their mouths. And after a little refining, those ideas can become really valuable. I'll admit, as a librarian, I used to secretly dislike fiction. I thought it wasn't real learning, but really, I was missing the point. Fiction teaches you in different ways. It stretches your mind, exposes you to perspectives you wouldn't normally consider, and pushes you outside your comfort zone. As an English teacher, I of course encouraged my students to write creatively. A bit hypocritical, I know, but it all clicked with my first set of fourth graders. We decided to create a class story together, combining their imaginative ideas with my guidance on narrative structure. It was a true collaboration, and the final story ended up being far richer than anything I ever could have done on my own. Maxwell says that if you struggle with creative thinking, surround yourself with creative people. Their mindset will rub off on you. And seriously, kids are perfect for that. Spend time with curious minds, and you'll be amazed at how much it sparks your own thinking. Chapter 4, Employ Realistic Thinking. Realistic thinking is all about weighing the pros and cons honestly and preparing for what might go wrong. This one reminded me that realism isn't negativity, it's wisdom in work boots. It's the kind of thinking that helps you see obstacles before they knock you off course, without stealing your hope or enthusiasm. Maxwell points out that thinking realistically doesn't mean you're a pessimist. It means you're smart enough to plan for potholes while still keeping your eyes on the road ahead. One way I like to do this comes from a financial podcast I follow. They talk about wearing 3D glasses. When planning, you create 3 versions of a plan. There's the dream plan, where everything goes perfectly. The down-to-earth plan, which is honestly more likely, and the do-do plan, where Murphy moves in and everything that can go wrong does. You never hope for the worst, but if you at least consider it, you won't be taken off guard, and you might even be pleasantly surprised when things go better than expected. I've learned the hard way that hope is beautiful, but it's the plan that keeps the dream alive. Dreams without preparation can fizzle, and preparation without hope can feel lifeless. Realistic thinking is the sweet spot where both come together. So, here's a little question for you. When you're chasing a goal, are you dreaming blindly, or are you planning wisely for the bumps along the way? Chapter 5, Utilize Strategic Thinking. People often say, Rome wasn't built in a day. The same goes for the Twin Towers. You don't get 110 stories without careful, deliberate strategic planning. My students and I learned the details this year during our 9/11 study, and I have to admit, my inner nerd was completely fascinated. Apologies in advance for the incoming nerd alert. The foundation work began with an extraordinary feat, digging a massive hole over 70 feet deep into Manhattan's bedrock. But that was just the beginning. To prevent the Hudson River from flooding the site, engineers constructed a watertight barrier known as a slurry wall. This wall was built by excavating narrow trenches, each about 3 feet wide and 70 feet deep, and then filling them with a viscous clay mixture. Steel reinforcement was added, and concrete was poured to form a solid, impermeable barrier. This meticulous process created a bathtub, a subterranean basin that kept the river's water at bay during construction and throughout the tower's existence. Only after securing this foundation could the actual towers be built. The North Tower rose to 1,368 feet, and the South Tower to 1,362 feet, each with 110 stories. The strategic foresight paid off. These buildings supported tens of thousands of people daily for decades. In 1993, a terrorist bomb exploded in the underground parking garage of the North Tower. The blast caused significant damage, but the slurry wall and foundation held firm, preserving the structural integrity of the towers. The lesson is clear. Strategic thinking isn't about rushing to the top. It's about laying a strong foundation, anticipating challenges, and taking deliberate steps so that the structures, or goals, you're building today can stand tall tomorrow. Chapter 6, Explore Possibility Thinking. Maxwell says, make your plans as fantastic as you like, because 25 years from now, they'll seem mediocre. That line really stuck with me. Sometimes I hold back from dreaming big because I don't want to risk falling short or being disappointed. But Possibility thinking isn't about ignoring reality. It's about asking, what if this actually works? And giving yourself permission to aim higher than you normally would. I've found that if you set really big goals and throw everything you have at them, even if you fall short, you'll still be far ahead of where you would have been had you played it safe. That's the beauty of possibility thinking. It moves you forward, even when the outcome isn't perfect. At the same time, it's important to stay grounded. I see this all the time in the classroom. Kids talking about wanting to be professional athletes, famous musicians, or even president one day. Could it happen? Absolutely. Is it statistically likely? Not really. But possibility thinking isn't about living with your head in the clouds. It's about letting yourself imagine what's possible, then figuring out what it would take to get there. That balance, dreaming big but staying connected to reality, is where growth really happens. At home, my husband and I have these crazy brainstorming sessions from time to time. During those moments, we're free to pitch any idea, no matter how ridiculous. It's freeing because while 99 times out of 100, those ideas go absolutely nowhere, occasionally one sticks. And when it does, it's usually pretty awesome. So possibility thinking isn't just about dreaming big. It's about giving yourself the freedom to imagine, experiment, and grow, knowing that even if you miss, you're still moving forward. Chapter 7, Learn from Reflective Thinking. John Maxwell emphasizes, reflective thinking turns experience into insight. It's not just the experience itself, but our thoughtful consideration of it that produces wisdom. Reflective thinking allows us to learn from our mistakes, grow from our successes, and gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our actions. I've found this to be true in my own life. As a young adult, I asked God for wisdom on a particular issue. What followed was a long series of setbacks in that area. A year or so later, I shared my frustration with my mom, wondering aloud why things hadn't worked out the way I'd hoped. She said, "Well, you're wiser now, aren't you? Looks like he answered you." That moment was eye-opening. Reflection helped me see that those struggles weren't wasted. They were the lessons I needed to actually grow. And while I would love to gain wisdom through osmosis, and I certainly value learning from others, mentors, and books, sometimes getting a bit muddy yourself seems to be the only way. Even small moments of pausing to ask, what went well? What didn't? What can I learn? Can give clarity and direction, turning everyday experiences into valuable insight for your future. Chapter 8, Question Popular Thinking. My favorite story from the book came from this chapter. Maxwell recounts a friend's childhood experience. The teacher took the class out to a field and had each student look through a telescope, one at a time. The first few children had trouble seeing, so the teacher adjusted the telescope, and each said they could see perfectly after that. One by one, each child looked through the telescope, until it was the boy just before Maxwell's friend, who happened to be last in line. He looked through the telescope and couldn't see anything. Frustrated, the teacher grabbed the telescope to look for himself, only to discover the lens cap had never been removed. Every child before him had simply said they could see because they were afraid to look foolish. The lesson is clear. Just because everyone else says something is true doesn't make it so. Maxwell points out that following the group doesn't always guarantee safety or the right choice. Sometimes the herd can steer you wrong. He says, if you want different results than the group, you have to be willing to think for yourself, question assumptions, and make choices that feel uncomfortable, but ultimately lead to growth, clarity, and uncommon results. And that's the heart of it. Thinking for yourself isn't always easy, but if you want results that stand apart from the crowd, it's the only way forward. Chapter 9, Benefit from Shared Thinking. Maxwell reminds us that great thinking doesn't have to happen alone. In fact, some of his best ideas didn't come from him at all. He's very intentional about mining ideas wherever they come, from a child, a taxi driver, or even someone he usually disagrees with. He believes that the idea should stand on its own, regardless of who said it. I was thinking about this recently while reviewing Thomas Erickson's book, Surrounded by Idiots. It's all about understanding how different people think and communicate. It was a great reminder that when we tap into different perspectives, our thinking becomes richer and more effective. Maxwell sums it up beautifully. Some of my best ideas didn't come from me at all. They came from a friend's perspective that made mine stronger. The takeaway? 2 humble thinkers beat 1 proud genius every time. When we're willing to learn from others, our ideas can grow in ways we never could have imagined. Chapter 10, Practice Unselfish Thinking. Maxwell reminds us that the highest level of success is significance, when what you do blesses someone other than just you. In both personal and professional relationships, it's not about one person winning at the expense of another. If I win and you lose, I win only once. If you win and I lose, you win only once. If we both lose, the partnership is over. But if we both win, we build a stronger connection, one that allows us both to keep winning together over and over again. I've found this true in everyday choices. When I stop thinking only about myself and consider how my actions affect others, the results are always better, more lasting, and more meaningful. The takeaway? Unselfish thinking isn't just the right thing to do, it's also the foundation for lasting success and truly significant relationships. Chapter 11, Rely on Bottom Line Thinking. This one hit me hard because it's so easy to mistake motion for meaning. We fill our days with busy work, checking tasks off of a list, and think we're making progress, when sometimes we're just spinning our wheels. Bottom line thinking is about stepping back and asking the hard question: what really matters here? What's the real win? A simple approach my husband introduced to me is to ask, will this matter in 5 years? If the answer is no, it helps you zoom out, adjust your perspective, and keep your emotions from driving decisions that won't have a lasting impact. It's a lesson I'm continually attempting to learn. Maxwell teaches that bottom line thinking keeps you focused on the actions and choices that make a real difference in your life, work, and relationships. So those are the 11 ways successful people think differently. Not because they're born that way, but because they chose to think on purpose. I am nowhere near having these all figured out. I'm still learning to think bigger, deeper, and kinder, but this book gave me some gems I've been scribbling down for my own life, and I hope they might bless someone else too. I would genuinely love to know which of these ways of thinking stood out to you most. And as always, the book can be found below if you would like to read it for yourself. That's all for now. Take care, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.